I met Harvey Milk probably within a month or two after I came to California. I came to California to get a doctorate that I never finished, and accidentally and incidentally gravitated to the first synagogue in San Francisco with an outreach to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. That would have been 1977. Not too long after I arrived there, I was outed as a rabbi. It was not my intention to identify myself that way. I was actually hiding from the Jewish community so that I wouldn't be bothered while I was doing my doctorate. But the folks at Sha'ar Zahav found out that I was a rabbi and decided that they wanted me to function in that capacity, at least on a part-time basis, an interim part-time basis at the beginning. By the time Harvey Milk found his way to Sha'ar Zahav, I was already identified as the rabbi there, even though I wasn't employed as the rabbi there. I got to know Harvey relatively well, but I was not involved in politics in a formal way at that point in time. Harvey almost immediately became involved in politics full-time from the minute he landed in San Francisco. And he came to Sha'ar Zahav not because we were a synagogue, not because we were a Jewish gathering place, but as I have come to say, he came there to pray, P-R-E-Y, as opposed to P-R-A-Y. He came to prey on potential voters. He wasn't there to pick up guys. He might have been one of the few in the place who wasn't. He was there to pick up votes. Even when he wasn't running for anything, he was looking for votes. The man was through and through a political machine of his own. And anybody he could talk to about the issues that were churning inside of him, he would talk to until they couldn't stand it anymore, and they'd go off and he'd find another target. He wasn't a regular at Sha'ar Zahav, but when he was there, his goals and objectives were clear, unapologetic, straightforward, and constant. What he did tell me at one point was that he was not at all religious, that he wasn't even sure there was a God, and I, as a relatively new rabbi at the time, said I was sure God couldn't care less, that the folks at the synagogue saw him for the person that he was. That was a very pushy New York Jewish guy who was very interested in the social issues that he thought were tearing San Francisco apart, at least from the point of view of gay people. So we talked and we became friends, and he wanted me to be involved in political stuff, and I was too busy trying to get my doctoral stuff under my belt. So I demurred and tried to be as gracious as I could, not doing that. And then in '78, along came John Briggs. Briggs was the now infamous senator who put on the ballot an initiative to ban openly gay people from teaching in the public schools of California. And it was one of those opportunities that Harvey saw for bringing our issue, the gay issue, out into the open in ways that he never dreamed possible otherwise. I thought that John Briggs was horribly foolish and terribly mean, and Harvey had much more inflated ways of saying that than I did, and I think they were much more colorful and impressive. But our opinion was pretty much the same. It wasn't Harvey, though, who said to me at one point, would you be willing to come out as the first openly gay rabbi in America in order to make the point for this campaign against the Briggs Initiative that the religious community is not unified against gay people? And I thought about it long and hard and decided that perhaps I really didn't have anything to lose. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So I was enlisted by the campaign against the Briggs Initiative to go public with my gayness and my rabbinicness, and was prepared to do so. And at the last minute, and I don't remember when that last minute was, I was notified by the campaign that they had changed their mind and they didn't want to use me anyway because they thought my coming out would be so momentous that it would distract attention from the campaign against the initiative. So I said, fine. I was hoping to be helpful, and if it's more helpful not to be outed publicly, then that's also fine. Harvey was not happy about that, but it, in the long run, didn't matter because the initiative failed, and for the short period of time that we were glorying in our victory, Harvey was ecstatic. When Harvey was elected to the Board of Supervisors, he still came around Shar Zahav, where by that time I had become the rabbi, and nothing changed. He was still preying on people for votes, was not praying much otherwise, and that was perfectly fine. I think in those days more people came to that synagogue not to be involved in spiritual matters as much as to be involved in social matters and community building matters. So we got to know each other relatively well. And then came the tragedy of Harvey's assassination. It obviously was a horrible shock to the community to lose both our first openly gay supervisor as well as a beloved mayor. And there was not much of a sense of what we ought to do about it, but there was some sense at Shar Zahav that the very least we should do was to have a service in memory of our Jewish member and a member of the Board of Supervisors. So in our very, very cramped space at the foot of Page Street, we held a memorial service at which I was the officiating rabbi and where I spoke about Harvey. The place was so jammed with people and so packed that they were standing outside on the street, not able to hear what was going on. But there was a mood of tremendous despair mixed with anger at the loss of this leader whose future seemed so tremendously important to us, without whom I think people were initially afraid that we would lose our direction, we would lose our momentum, we would lose our hope. As everybody knows, from day one, Harvey's point in all of this was that we had to give people hope. We had to come out whenever and wherever we could in the interest of making it possible for people to live their lives not as lies, but as human beings. So even though Harvey was not a deeply spiritual man, I think that, truth to be told, he was probably one of the most spiritual people he ever met without knowing it, because he exemplified some of the bedrock Jewish values that have informed my life, and I think probably unwittingly the lives of an awful lot of other people who watched what he did, understood what he was about, and took away from his life, the legacy of his life, the fact that if we live a lie, we perpetuate despair among our own people. There is no future in that kind of an endeavor. Harvey lived and literally died so that people could break down closet walls. I think that legacy is alive and well, and I cherish the time that he and I had together, even though we never saw eye to eye on theology or philosophy or spirituality. But we were virtually in lockstep when it came to politics, to freedom, and to hope for all the generations to come.